Hi everyone and welcome back. So in the last video we have created all the type definitions. Now we are going to create the resolvers. Okay, and we are going to use this GraphQL tool. This is a utility which is going to help us in merging the type definitions and merging the resolvers. You can see, you can also define the .graphql multiple files and then you can merge them using this load sync file path, all the GraphQL files which are defined for each and every module. Or what you can do is, let's say you have the type defined. These are like you have multiple schemas or multiple resolvers, right? You can merge them using merge resolver utility, which is coming from GraphQL tool merge. Same thing you can use to merge the different types, because in the schema what we have, the resolvers and the type. So you define the types in multiple files, you define the resolvers in multiple types like user, post, comments in 3 different folders. Then you can use merge resolvers and merge type def from the GraphQL tools. Okay, and then you got the root resolver and root type definitions, just pass them while creating the server. Okay, same thing we are going to do here. We have created the type definitions and we are going to use this index.js to merge all the type definitions, right? So what we can do is we can use it for merging the type definitions and merging the resolvers. So how this look like? So we can just import all the type definitions. First we will use this import utility, merge resolvers, which we are going to define now. Import merge resolvers from, this is going to come from the GraphQL tool, graph tools. From the graph tools we can use merge, and same thing we can use for the type definitions. Here you can import all the uh, type definitions and the resolvers. Similarly we have import merge type def. Let's define this later, and we are getting it from the same GraphQL tools and merge. We can just specify it here only. So this is merge type defs. Okay, now we will import all the types here. Okay, user type is coming from, this is coming from types. Similarly we can get the comments and post quickly, and we will just do const type def. We will create an array, just fix these, const post, and then we have another is a comment. This is coming from comment, this is coming from post. Okay, now we can pass them in an array, post and comment, and then we can export 2 things from here. Type def, we can actually merge this, merge type defs, and we can pass this array. And the second argument is, we can specify, this is first argument merge type def, all true. So this is our type definitions. Now similarly we will also merge all the resolvers once we get them. So resolvers will also be merged in the same way. Here instead of types we will just replace this as a user resolver, post resolver, and comment resolver, just to have a different name. And we are getting this from the resolvers folder. These we are going to define now. Once we have all the resolvers, we can do, we can just do the merge resolvers, and we can pass the user resolver, comment resolver, and host resolver. And comment resolver. So we got both, right? All the resolvers are being passed. So now what we are doing is, this is resolver. We can call it as a root resolver, let's say, and this is a root type def. Okay, we have both the things. We can export these. Exports, and we can export root type def. So same can be imported, and root resolver. Okay, so this is why it is complaining. And I can do it like this. Export const, because these are the two different const. I am exporting them like this. This is how we do in ES6 common.js modules. Okay, so we are exporting these. Now we can create resolvers like comment resolver and all. So let's define simply first user resolver, because here we are going to interface with database. Okay, so export to default, and here we are going to define all our query and mutation which we have. So what all query we have in for user, and then we have a mutation and some custom types, right? So in the query we will define all our query, which is user and user list, mutations, and we have a user type also, because in the user type we have post and comments which we have to resolve, right? So we will define these functions together. So this is posts and this is comments. Whatever the post and comments that user has done, we are also trying to return that. I'm talking about this user type, and in the user type, if we go, we also have the posts and comments. So how do we resolve it? That we have to define here in the resolver, that whenever you wanted to return a user with the posts and comments, this is how you are going to resolve. Okay, I placed it in the wrong file. This is user.js. Now all the query. So here we are going to access the methods. Okay, the first query is user, and this is my simple function. What all arguments it is going to have? So it is async function, because we are going to do a db call, parent, and the argument if you are passing id, and then we have context. So from context we can access models, right? And the last argument is info. What happened? No, I don't need models here. We are getting models from the context. And now our simple db calls will be return await. This is async await models dot user dot find one. So this is like a database query you are doing, you are passing the ID and .exec, so it can return a promise, right? So this is user. Another query we have is users. We'll just copy things from here and we'll change. So this is users. It doesn't have any argument, so you can just put, we are not extracting anything from the argument. We can still access models, and what we are doing here is we are just generating user.find1. I mean, we just need to get all the users, so there is no criteria. You can pass the empty object, and here we need to populate the post and comments, because there is a relationship. User has a relationship with the post and comments. We can populate that data also, and once we receive this data, we have to structure it. We are getting users. Now what we need to return, if we are getting users.map, and we are getting individual user, and we have to just restructure it based on the format we need. So here u.id underscore id, because this is an object id, we have to convert it into a string because this is of type string. Then we have a name, all the other types. u.name, I will just directly come to the major ones, which are posts. So u.posts you will get, and you will get comments also. Okay, why it is complaining that, okay, we have to return it, so it should be inside these brackets. Now it is fine. Either you write a return and then return this object, just to have more readability. What we can do is, this is our arrow function. Here we come and return this whole object. Okay, so we can also define the email, age, and all these arguments. So we have email, that's it. So we are getting or extracting all the arguments. So this is our queries, just only queries. And when it comes to mutation, that means we wanted to create a user, update a user. Let's write a one mutation, then rest we will structure. Create user, this is a mutation name, right? The same naming we have to use in the async function. We have parent, and here we are going to access the argument object. There I'm getting user. If you go to the query, create user, here we are accessing the user, so it's like argument.user, which we can access directly using destructuring user, and I can access the models from the context. And then last argument is info. This is arrow function, so const new user, this we are going to structure. And how we can do, await new user, and we can pass all the objects. Okay, because we just need to do new user dot save. This is how the MongoDB work. User dot name, then we have email, which we are getting from user dot email. I mean, you can also do the validations and throw the validation errors if your payload is not coming as expected, like email is not coming as expected. Then what we can do, this is the new user object. Now we need to do new user dot save, which is going to return a promise. Okay, so if we just look into the documentation, we can also return a promise, return new promise. I mean, just promisify it. So resolve comma reject. I mean, we are just creating a promise wrapper on that. New user dot save, and this is going to return a callback, error or response if there is an error. So here we will do it like this. If there is an error, that means we are going to reject this with the error, otherwise we will resolve it. That means the user is created. I will try to simplify it more. You don't need to write the promisify wrapper. So this is our create user. Now similarly we have update user, delete user. So I will just copy this one. In the update user we are just passing one more argument. Right here we are passing the ID. So we are going to get two arguments from the underscore from the arguments ID and user. So first we will check, does the user exist? I mean, we can just directly do a find by ID and update. Okay, so what it does, we can access the models. So await or how we do it, we already have a user object, models.user, models.user. Here we do have one method, find by ID and update. I think yes, this is a method. You just need to pass the underscore ID and your payload, what you are going to do. So once the ID is found, I'm going to set, so this is a $set. I'm going to update the whole payload with this user object which I'm getting. Okay, if this doesn't exist, then create it as a new true, and just to convert it into a promise .exec, we can just return is return await, something like this. I will also test it if this is how it works, because this is going to return a promise. We are just doing await on that. Okay, then delete is find by ID and delete, same thing. Here we are going to get only the ID, we are not going to get the user. Find by ID and delete, models.user.find by ID.exec, we don't need to worry about all those things, just pass the ID. Okay, so that's it about the resolvers. The resolvers we are writing, this should be capital. Okay, so we have written a user resolver. Still we have to define these types. Okay, when you are rendering a user, how to render the posts, because based on the user ID you should be able to render the post for the user, you should be able to render the comments for the user. So this should be simple. What we are doing here is, in this we are passing the parent. I mean, from the parent we will get the ID. Parent is the user object, argument, context and info, 3-4 argument. We are not using all of them, and we can do is return await post dot okay, we can access models directly here. So models dot post dot find, because we want to find author for this. In the user we have the post, means we can also return the information of that author, should be same as the ID we are getting. Author is same as the ID. Same logic we can apply here for the comments. Here we are going to look into the comments entity, comments model, model dot comment, because in comment also there is an author which is same as the user ID which we are getting from the parent object. So this is how we can simplify the types, because in the user we are going to how we are going to return the post and comments. So we have to explicitly say, when anybody is requesting the post information inside the user query, then this is how you are going to resolve. Models.post.find, return the same author, because in the post we have author ID, in the comments also we have author ID, and that ID we are getting from the parents. So we can return it like this. Okay, so in the next video we will write the resolvers for rest of the post and comment, and then we will run this application. This is nice and clean.